Howdy y'all, I'm Anna with Always Right, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my reading stats for 2023, as well as some media, whether that's books, TV shows, movies, that I consumed this year that I feel have some really pertinent, really great takeaways for you and me as authors. So let's get into it. First, we're gonna go over stats because I love stats. So the first stats we're gonna be looking at are actually from my Excel spreadsheet that I keep myself. I'm an accountant. I live keeping track of stuff with Excel spreadsheets. It makes me so happy. So I went ahead and borrowed with Cindy's Excel spreadsheet that she used, and I didn't spend any time at all basically touching on it or even like adjusting it for my needs / my wants. So we're gonna run with it. There will be some statistics that aren't exactly right, but the ones that I'm saying, the ones that I'm noting and like highlighting are accurate. The ones that I'm not aren't accurate. So first, totals, pages read, 7,819 pages that I actually like physically or like digitally read. Hours listened, 261.55 hours for audiobooks. I basically spent 6.5 work weeks listening to audiobooks, not like actually during my working hours, but just for a comparison, that's 6.5 work weeks right there. So total books read is 44. I had set the goal of 45, and I think this is the first year since I started tracking it with Goodreads that I did not exceed my reading goal. I only reached about a 98% on it. Next stat that we're gonna look at is months and number of books. In January, I read 4. February 6, March 5, it continues on, and then like June, July, August, and September, no books read. Work was bad. I was on vacation quite a bit during that time. So it's like I work my little tail off, go to vacation, come back, and like have to do triple speed to try to catch up. Format is super interesting. Audiobooks, 22. Ebooks, 4. Physical, 18. That's right, I had a pretty even split between me actually reading the words and me listening to the words being read to me. For audience, and this shouldn't really surprise you, adult, 35. Middle grade, 2. That surprises me. I think the 2 that I read is like Harry Potter, the first book, and then The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. New adult, 3, and then YA, 4. So that is a beautiful, beautiful pie chart. That makes me just mwah, because I'm writing for adults, so it just makes sense that I'm reading adult. Now, type of publication, traditional, 38, self-published, 6. Indie is such like a weird section. It's really hard for me to pinpoint exactly what indie is supposed to be, but that's kind of the breakdown. And once again, this breakdown makes sense because I am writing to publish for traditional. And the last part that's really, really interesting to me is the series stats. I read 26 books that were part of series and 18 standalone novels. So my star ratings, and I'm not gonna tell you like exactly which books have which star ratings because I don't remember, but I did have 3 5 stars, 13 4 stars, 6 3.5 stars, 8 3 stars, 4 2.5 stars, 7 2 stars, and 3 1 stars. I read quite a few books that I wasn't really excited for. I consider like 3.5 stars and up to be like really excited, like I was loving it, living my best life. 3 is like, well, I read it, it wasn't bad. And then 2.5 for me and below is like, I think I just read it for the goal. I literally just read it for the goal. Okay, let's get into the monthly stats real quick. January, read 4 books, read 436 pages, listened to a little over 47.5 hours of audiobooks. Average rating of 2.75. That is 1 horror book, that is 2 romances, and 1 historical book for a total of 4, obviously. 3 were with audiobook, 1 was physical, which you could have guessed. 3 were adult, 1 was YA. Next up is February. With February, I actually ended up reading 6 books, and all 6 of those books were physical books or ebooks because I read 1,983 pages with 0 audiobook hours. My average rating was 3.25 for that. That I read 1 fantasy, 1 historical, 2 horrors, and 1 mystery. And then I'm missing a category for one of the books, but all 6 of them did end up being physical books. 5 of them were adult, 1 was a YA novel. Next is March. I ended up reading 5 books, a total of 304 pages and 45.2 hours of audiobooks. You guessed it, 1 physical book, 4 audiobooks. I read 3 fantasy books, 1 nonfiction, and 1 romance that month. It seems that there were 4 adult novels and 1 YA novel. Moving on to April. Read 5 books again, very strong month. 948 pages read, 32.4 hours listened, average rating of 3.9. This is the highest rated month to date. And that ended up being 2 fantasies and 3 romances. That ended up being 3 audiobooks, 2 physical books, 3 adult, 1 new adult, and 1 YA. In May, I also read 5 books, 411 pages, about 30 hours for the audiobooks with an average rating of 2.3. Not a great month for me. 3 audiobooks, 1 ebook, 1 physical book. All of them were adult. All 5 were adult. And I'm missing some categories here, obviously, because it's like fantasy and romance, and I don't know what the other 3 were. Next is June. I read 2 whole books for a total of 31 hours on audio for an average of 4.25. That was 1 mystery and 1 fantasy novel. You know, obviously 2 audiobooks, 1 adult, 1 new adult. Then in July, I read 2 books for a total of 28 and a half hours for an average rating of 3.75. I read 1 mystery, 1 romance, for 2 audiobooks, 2 adult books. August came around and I read nothing, so that's a really, really easy wrap up. You're welcome. And then September came around, I read 2 books again. Read 223 pages, listened to audiobooks for 6.5 hours for a total of 3.5 average star rating. That is 1 fantasy novel and 1 horror novel. 1 audiobook, 1 physical, 1 middle grade, 1 adult. Next is October, where I really started picking up my reading again. Read 5 books for 1,161 pages and about 21 hours of worth of audiobooks. My average rating for October was a 3-star. I had 1 horror book and 4 romance books. That resulted in 2 audiobooks, 1 ebook, and 2 physical books for a total of 5 adult novels. We're almost at the end. November, I read 4 books, read 1,039 pages, listened to 20 hours of audiobooks for a grand total of 3.125 average star rating. That's 1 fantasy, 2 historical, and 1 romance. That was 2 audiobooks, 2 physical books, 2 adult, 1 middle grade, 1 new adult. And then the last month, December, that's right, 4 books, 1,314 pages read, 0 hours of audiobook listened to, with an average star rating of 2.875. I ended up reading 2 fantasy and 2 romance novels. It broke down to 2 ebooks, 2 physical books. All 4 of them were adult. That's all I have for that. Let's look real quick at my year in books, which I think is like one of the coolest things that Goodreads actually does. So according to Goodreads, I read 16,049 pages for about 43 books. Now, one of these books that I counted on my Excel spreadsheet that's not on my Goodreads yet is a book that I'm finishing tonight. I only have a few pages left, so that's why it's off just a little. But that book is a very short one. That's why I'm not really bothered about it. My shortest book was Fonda Lee's Untethered Sky at 152 pages, and my longest book was Deanna Gabaldon with Outlander at 850 pages, which I did not know that going into Outlander. Next, average book length in 2023 for me was 373 pages. Most shelf book was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone at 12.5 million, and the least shelved was Animals by Will Staples at 1,626. Your favorite part, I know, is the scrolling. I had a very good year with my books. So this year for me, reading wise, was a great one. I had a lot of books that I'd picked up at the last Barnes & Noble half off sale. You can probably see and guess which ones. I also started a new tradition I'm forcing on myself, that in January, I read novels that I've gotten like halfway through. A few that are on that list include like The Troop and The Ivies. Those are books that I had started like in the last year or two and just did not finish for some reason. But it was a very good year. It's so interesting to look back at the books that I have read. I noticed this year that I've read a lot more romance and a lot more fantasy, but a lot of the fantasy novels that I did end up reading were like fantasy romance. I've picked out about 3 or 4 books for 2024 that are just fantasy that I'm looking forward to reading. Also this year I started reading Kindle Unlimited again. For a long time, basically all of 2021, I didn't really read a lot of Kindle Unlimited, while in 2020, I had just like eaten it up. I don't know if that was a stress thing or what, but I did start picking up Kindle Unlimited books again. Also continued my pattern of behavior where I read mystery books that were made into series, and then I like never watch the series. I just read the book and I'm like, yeah, that's good. I continued Bridgerton this year, which I'm so happy for. And I'm really thinking I'm gonna finish it this next year. Just do the audiobooks for it through my local library. There are quite a few books that are on this list that I know that I physically read, and I could not tell you for the life of me how they ended. And there are books that I read recently. I don't know if it's like a stress thing where my brain just like, flatlined on me, or what. A few of those that come to mind are like Into the Drowning Deep and The Husband List. I read those, loved them, and Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Just a lot of books that I read recently, I couldn't tell you how they ended, and I think that's just a good indicator of my stress levels. Yeah, those are the books I read. You can tell, especially at the end here, like I was just trying to get books out. This is where a lot of like the KU books are coming in. So I only have 3 books that I would really recommend to you as an aspiring author, aspiring writer. The first one is gonna be Animals by Will Staples. The reason I picked this up is because it has a stunning cover. I will admit, this was not a 5-star read for me. However, the level of research, the level of knowledge that Will developed through, researching, going out in the field, doing his job, working, it shows. It really shows. If you are doing a research-heavy book and it's really heavy topic that you don't really know how to talk about or how to condense, I recommend Animals by Will Staples. I believe this one was shelved the least number of times out of my 2023 reads, but it's really good. Will Staples, I believe, is a journalist by trade. It has some hard-hitting topics. It's like Zoo if Zoo was actually written well. And I read Zoo, so I can make that comparison. This is a great book if you're trying to figure out how to condense decades, hours, years, whatever you want to call it, of research. Next book is Day Boy by Trent Jamieson. This is actually an Australian author. Yay, we'd love to see it. And the reason he's on here is because his prose is just very nice. It's very pretty. Day Boy is essentially like a vampire novel. It's like a vampire novel set in Australia, if Australia was kind of like the Wild Wild West kind of vibes. It's very interesting. It's a coming of age, definitely more of a literary novel, but it's super interesting. According to Paula Weston on Goodreads, the writing is sublime, poetic, and evocative. Mark's voice is perfect. The world building is entirely and brilliantly original. It's really pretty. And not only is it a pretty cover, but it's an interesting book. But just go into it expecting it to be much more literary, not so fantasy. This is one of the books that I really remember the ending. Like, the ending sticks out to me. I liked it. I will say, again, Another book that was not a 5-star read for me, but I definitely see the value in reading it. If you're looking for prose that has a bit of plot, bit of coming of age, bit of vampires to it, you'd like this. And the last one is The Wolf Den. I can't find my copy of it, but I love The Wolf Den. I love The Wolf Den. It has really interesting character arcs. You get to see a character that's truly at the lowest point they can be, rise up, use their talents, and go up through the ranks. And again, Wolf Den was not a 5-star read for me, but I really like this book. I think about it regularly. The world building in it is amazing. But The Wolf Den is definitely a novel where you never know what's gonna happen next. Harper does a great job of keeping the reader on their toes because not even the main character really knows what's gonna happen next. So I highly recommend it. Just know, you will not hurt my feelings if you do not read, do not finish, do not watch, whatever, any of these. On to the movies and TV shows. I have 3 movies and 1 TV show. So I'm gonna get the TV show out of the way, and that is The Gilded Age on HBO/Max or whatever they're calling it today. The aspect that The Gilded Age really shines through with is that the low stakes. It is very difficult to find novels nowadays, I feel, that have low stakes, or shows that have low stakes and execute it well. You become invested in the characters, you become invested in their hopes and dreams, and it's not like the world's not at risk, you know? Heck, the house usually isn't even at risk. It's just low stakes, petty drama. We all need some low stakes drama now and again. Now on to the movies. The first movie is The Northman. I liked this movie, and I don't know if it's because I got really into Viking literature in college or what, but I really appreciated what it did, but I especially appreciated its dialogue. Now you don't have to watch this because this is a little bit of a gorier, violent movie. It's about Vikings, of course it is. But the dialogue in this movie is not wasted at all. It is the tightest, cleanest dialogue I've seen in a movie in a long time. I highly recommend turning the subtitles on so you can hear it well. That's what I had to do, and I was absolutely blown away by the dialogue. They optimized the dialogue, and oh man, I can't say enough about it. I would keep saying, I like the dialogue for the next, how long do I have left on this memory card? But anyway, it's really good if you're struggling with kind of narrowing down your dialogue, kind of editing it to be a little more concise. I heavily recommend this movie, I say as I ramble on about it. Next is The Road to El Dorado. Woo! I know, I love this. I literally just watched this last night. But The Road to El Dorado, it does an amazing job of showcasing the 3-act structure. We love good 3-act structure. It's a fun movie. Also, I've watched it since I've been an adult, but it's I caught things this viewing that I didn't catch before that were very adult, and I was oh. It's really good. But if you're tired of people telling you to watch Hunger Games, which I know can be a very depressing movie, I would highly recommend The Road to El Dorado. And the last one is The Menu. The Menu. The Menu just does a chef's kiss. Just amazing job at kind of caricatures of characters. And it has amazing symbolism throughout. If you're trying to figure out where the line is for outrageous characters, The Menu does a great job of really highlighting those aspects. It buries the lead on quite a few characters, and it's just great. It's really enjoyable. And it has phenomenal symbolism. So if you're kind of trying to figure out how to incorporate symbolism in, The Menu. The Menu is basically a giant petri dish of symbolism. So those are the books I read in 2023, as well as the media I consumed that bettered me as a writer for 2023. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these, watched any of these, or if you have some different recommendations for great media for writers. And as always, Thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing. Now let's get writing.